Well, I'm LaDonna, and this is my daughter, Traci.
Yep, that's my mom. Otto Hans Christiansen.
Otto Hans, yeah.
My dad. So, he was born in Norway.
Right. They were ready to come to America, but the war broke out, and the Germans came in, took their home, and they had to go live in barracks. So that postponed it for quite a few years, and so when they did come, he was 16. When they came to Silverton from Norway, they were sponsored by Sheldon Johnson, who is an old-time member of Immanuel, his father, Oscar, I think it was Oscar Johnson, and they lived in the house that Irv Stadley lives in now. They stayed with that family until they could establish a place, and the first thing they did was join Immanuel. So it's been his church ever since.
He worked at the theater, didn't he?
He was a manager at the Silverton Theater for years, and when he was young.
Because he didn't go to high school. When they moved.
When he was a senior in Norway when they moved here, and he couldn't speak English. So, when you're that age, you're not going to go to school, and so he didn't. So anyway, but...
So he and his oldest brother, Thor, went to work, right?
Yeah, they got jobs.
And the younger kids went.
He drove a gravel truck, and he worked in the theater. And I met him when I was out of high school, and I was working, but it was just old-time friends. Yeah.
Cool. He always had you've said he always had the nicest car, and he was like the...
Yeah, he had this nice car that everybody envied. Yeah, he always had a nice car. He was drafted into Korea, and he was not a citizen at that time. And he got his citizenship papers in Korea by serving, and it was very important to him.
I remember growing up, looking back, he wished he would have taught us his language, Norwegian, but he didn't, because it was so important when he got to America that they spoke English and they did everything the American way.
They even changed their name. It was spelled with a K-R, and they changed it C-H, so, because that was more American.
And it was an honor. It was a pride thing. Looking back, he's like, well, I should have, but...
He helped so many people, just spontaneous things, we RV'd for several years, and we'd be in these campgrounds, and some of these people would have trouble backing in or getting up a hill or something, and he was always there to jump in and do it for them, and, it just happened. He was just very helpful.
I always remember him as... He wasn't a big man, but he was so strong, and there wasn't anything he couldn't do. If something needed fixed or repaired, or he could do anything, and it amazed me because it's like he didn't finish school, didn't have a high school diploma, he didn't have a college degree, but there wasn't anything he couldn't do. I remember even today, people said, "Oh my gosh, your dad did our floor covering, and we've never had such good work. Everything was perfect, and he cleaned up." And
he was a perfectionist.
He was a perfectionist. That was a little hard sometimes.
It's hard to live with a perfectionist when you're not. He loved his family. He was proud of his family, and then he was proud of his own family and his grandkids. Of course, everybody heard about them when we were at these jams.
And his baby sister, what did he call her?
His Cotty Beth.
Cotty Beth, which is Carrie Hatterberg for most of us that know her. So, but that's he had
a soft spot.
Very soft spot for her.
How old was she when she moved here?
Well, maybe 2 or 4. She was little. Maybe she was 4. I don't know. Not very old. But she could speak Norwegian and English, so. I think just being honest, doing unto others, really good deeds.
I remember as a kid, he was a really hard worker, and then he'd come home and he'd work on the farm, but he would always come and every night come up and say your prayers with us, the Lord's Prayer. That was very important. We always said the Lord's Prayer,
And that's true, and that was the last thing we'd say to each other at night was the Lord's Prayer. So it was important. He didn't talk about it a lot, but it was important to him.
But he comes from the old Norwegian where, you know, you didn't show your emotions.
No.
You didn't. He came a long ways, I will say that, though, from childhood to the few years before he passed. He was much more open and would share his feelings more, which was really cool.
And he would talk about more things than he ever did before.
Oh, yeah. You know, I remember he always played music. He always played the guitar and sang. And when his cancer diagnosis came, there was a definite switch in the type of music he played, don't you think? Definitely went more, he would sing country, a lot of country before, and he definitely went more gospel. And I always felt like that was his form of prayer in a lot of ways.
Yeah, in all the jams that we used to go to, a lot of jams, and he always wanted to end up singing a gospel at the end of the jam. And yeah, I think you're right, Tracy. Well, he loved God, and he loved his family, and he loved this country. He just thought this was the best country to ever live in.
He was a good man.